good to be with you again this week. Good God, it's hot outside every day. It's so hot. It looks like on the forecast we might get a break here in a few days. Hopefully coming into next week, a little bit cooler, but golly, temperatures are hot outside. Temperatures are hot at the state capitol. Governor Stitt making some political theater this week by signing an executive order. We're going to kind of wait a few days to break that down because we want to get some good voices in here that can speak to that with a little more authority than I can, because it deals with women, and I'm not a woman. So we've reached out to some partners about that, and we'll have a more in-depth conversation there for you soon. This week, though, we've got a special guest in studio, a local friend of yours and mine, Jabee. What's up, man? Thanks for being here.
Thank you. What's up?
Jabee and I just, even when you were walking up outside, I'd been standing there for a few minutes, and I was just thinking, it's like oppressive to even say hello to friends on the sidewalk. It's so hot outside.
Yeah, I had parked around the corner. I was like, man, don't want to walk or get back around there. But
well, when you leave, we can cut through the building. It'll save you a little bit. Jabee, you were one of our kind of plenary speakers at CivicsCon last month. You came into one of the big sessions and got to share a few words about your experience, right? I think I introduced you then as a, hip hop artist, as an activist, as an entrepreneur, a man about town. And I think you come to this line of work with a lot deeper of a story than most people know about you. Like, folks might know you for your music, or they see you, on the newspaper or something for something that's happening right now, right? But this is something that's been baked in, right? This is for you really like a life's work that now you have the opportunity to kind of live out in new ways.
yeah.
Could you, for our listeners here on the podcast, could you tell us a little bit about kind of that story and what brings you into this kind of work today?
You talking about LiveFree or just what I talked about?
Well, we'll get to LiveFree in just a minute, but yeah,
okay.
but just
the work.
Yeah, building up to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I always say I never know what I'm doing until I'm doing it, but it all stems from probably just being impacted by different things in life, and where I come from and the things I've seen and what I've gone through, and the things that at some point you deal with all these things and you see all these things and you just want to do whatever you can to help change them and help fix it, and so I think that's kind of where for me where it all starts. So it could like for me it's like a bunch of different things. So it might be let's say whatever the injustice is, if for the most part if I have an opinion on it, it's because it's affected me in some way. Whether it's homies being locked up, a homeboy on death row, homies in the pen for life, or if it is someone getting killed by the police, or whatever the case may be. Like a lot of those things, I have been affected by in some way. If it's somebody getting killed on the streets, if it's a community not having food to eat, or not having jobs or whatever, like if it's homelessness, like all those things I've experienced.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I feel like I have a responsibility to to engage in a way that either helps the voices be heard of people who are dealing with whose voices don't get heard, or I have a responsibility to jump out the window and just try and do what I can to be a part of some type of solution, or figure out ways to help instead of just sitting around and talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and something you said in there really stood out to me. You said, this is, if you have an opinion about something, it's because it's something that has touched your life. And in today's world, everybody's got an opinion about everything, whether or not they have any personal connection to it. And I think from at least from my vantage point, right, where you and I have kind of orbited around each other in different scenarios. We've had opportunities to work together, do events, that kind of stuff, and just know each other through kind of advocacy work in town. And I meet a lot of people in that world, and you do too. And I will say that there's a different timbre, a different tenor to how you approach this work that is, I don't know, I don't want to be dismissive of others to say that it's more authentic with you, but I think there's something that comes with it from you that makes it very real, very palpable, that this is not just an issue you care about because it exists in the world, but it is something that you have experienced yourself. And I think that lived experience means a lot, right?
Yeah. And that's, and I don't usually jump on issues or jump on things that ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Or that, you know what I'm saying? Like I might feel a certain way, but just like you said at the beginning, this issue, concerns women, so you want to get women in here to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was talking to someone yesterday about, just about, for instance, LiveFree, and they go, well, what about, why are you focusing on Ward 7? I said, well, that's where I live, that's where I grew up, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where I have the deepest connection. Now, do I care about, the city? Do I care about the state? Yeah. But right now, I can't, charity starts at home. I can't try and go out and fix somebody else's side of town, somebody else's spot, somebody else's city until I've, worked on my own first. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that it's important that whatever I do, I be really, really intentional about it. Whatever I say, I be really, really intentional, because these are, at the end of the day, where we are talking about people's lives. We're talking about, people's trauma. We're talking about injustice. We're talking about, the people. And whenever you're talking about the people and you're working for the people, it's not about, what Jabee thinks is right. It's not about, how big my personality is, how big my platform is. It's about these people. And none of that stuff don't matter if I'm just out here trying to just, do all these different things and move around just because I can, or start something here just because I can, or because somebody asked me. Then, I feel like, well, they asked me, so I'm going to go, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't like when that's done to me, you know what I'm saying? So it's just important that I speak for and I address, things that I know about and that, have impacted me first before I ever try and, feel like I have, I know what somebody else needs. Because I don't like when people do that to me or my community. Somebody, for instance, whenever we first started the East Point development, right? And this is before I had Eastside Pizza, before I had Scramble, before I had LiveFree. We were just trying to get the city behind it and get, city council to help approve some things, right? And I'm sitting in this meeting, and it's probably like 3 black people. This is before, Nikki Nice was on council. It was still Pettis. And, and I don't even, at this point, I know who they are now, but I was just getting my feet wet, so I didn't even know who any of these city council people were. Never seen them, but they don't come around where I live at. I don't,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we're presenting East Point to them and telling them why it's important and why, our city needs this and why, our neighborhood needs this, and, talking about all the lack of resources and about how, redlining affected, the Northeast community and all these things. And they had to have a discussion about whether or not it was, it was okay to support us in what we were asking. And that really, that messed me up, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, who are you to know or to even, you know what I'm saying? Why is that even the discussion? I'm telling you it's happening.
Right.
And even if you're having a discussion about it, you still will never know because you don't live there, you don't go there, you ain't been there, you don't know anybody that live over there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably, you know what I mean? Like you're not over there like I am. And so like that, those type of things is why I don't want to ever be somebody who can say, well, I think you should be doing this or you should be doing this, so I know what's right for this group of people.
Yeah.
Because especially for Black people in America, I'm sorry if I'm talking a long time.
No, go for it.
Especially for Black people in America, since the day we got here, we've been told where to live, how to raise our kids, what schools they can go to, how to worship, what to worship, who to worship. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been told, like you don't make any moves, especially, in Oklahoma City, without going through somebody who don't even know you, or you know what I'm saying, or getting approved by somebody who doesn't even, doesn't even know what it's like or understand. And so, for that reason, because I know what that's like, I'm not about to, go and try to tell somebody, well, you should do this or you should be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because like I don't like when it's done to me or my community.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just think that it's important that for me, I just be intentional in that way because I know the kind of harm it can do to people. I know the kind of harm it can do to a community. So
no, that's exactly right. I mean, it is difficult, right? Even if people mean well, people might want to help. We hear this a lot, I think, in Oklahoma about what's happening in rural areas. And I almost only hear that from people who live in metro areas. Yep. Who are like, well, we got to do something in the rural. And I was like, do you even know anyone out there that you could talk to and find out what actually matters to them, right? Yeah. Maybe they're happy, or maybe they're not, but for totally different reasons than what you would assume. And it is, I think.
Even if you talk to one person in a rural area, you still can't take that as like this is what people in rural Oklahoma think. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I know because people do that to Black people all the time. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll have a view on one thing, or I'll feel some way about something, and then somebody, who ain't Black will come to me, well, so and so thing said this, and I'm like, man, I don't know them. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. I don't know their life, they don't know mine. They not, you know what I'm saying, like they ain't lived how I live, so I don't care what they say. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm telling you about my experience and how I live. Just because they Black don't mean we grew up the same. We can, you know what I mean? Like they don't get to speak for me, and I don't think it's important. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think it's right for people to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I have friends in, let's say, rural Oklahoma, right? Because like Guthrie and Coyle and all these places out there, and even with all the people I know in those places, they're all different too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but we live in a time where everybody got all the answers. Everybody know what people should need, what they want. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, but what that is, people feel like that, and they think like that. That is, I don't even want to say it. It's a form of white supremacy. Yeah. Because it to think that you know what's best for somebody based on your opinion or what you think or what your beliefs are, you are imposing your will on somebody else's life, right? If you think about, the essence of, white supremacy, that's what it is. Yeah. Whenever Black people got here, whenever they got here and natives were already here, what did they do? They said, listen, this is how you should worship. This is the language you should speak. Stop speaking your native language. If you got caught speaking it, you know what I'm saying, something happened to you.
Right.
The same with black people, people from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the foundation of white supremacy, is like, this is what's right, and if you don't do, or if my will doesn't fit, then something's wrong with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's wrong.
Well, on our last episode of this podcast, I talked a little bit about, I think, a similar sentiment from the governor's like recent statements about tribal gaming compacts. And he said in multiple statements out of his office the same line, and that is that A.G. Drummond or the big tribes are trying to turn Eastern Oklahoma into a big reservation. And this is not a partisan statement, but like, the tribes did not create the reservations, right? Like the white government created the reservations. And so it's just such a bizarre, I mean, I guess it's gaslighting, right? Like, it's a way to like change the narrative that is totally inaccurate, but it's a way to elicit fear out of people for completely the wrong reasons. And I was like,
but
this is not, it's just not right.
Yeah, and the scary part about that is, and cut me off anytime if I'm talking too much, but he claims native, right? The governor, and a lot
in that he's Cherokee. Is that what you mean?
Something like that. I don't know which
I think so. Yeah.
He claims native, right? And there's a difference. Not tell people all the time, whether it's black, native, whatever. There's probably somebody else like him claiming native and going, well, I'm Native American, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he probably feels like, well, I'm native, or you know what I'm saying? So, but there's a really big difference, especially when you live in native country like we do. There's a really big difference in talking native and living native.
Sure. Yeah.
And, everybody got a Cherokee license plate. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got a, you know what I mean? So, but everybody don't speak Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody not at, the sweat. Everybody not at a powwow. Everybody ain't going to the nine. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's not participating. Like their life isn't encompassed in being Native American. Mm-hmm. But they claim Native, right? So you can't talk Native and say, well, as Native American, I think this is okay, when you're not living Native. You live in white. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so that's the scary part, is that you have people who they feel like because they've been told they're native, or they did ancestry. I don't know what he did to figure it out, but he might be on a roll. I don't know, but based on friends and brothers and sisters that I know that are native and actually live native. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? And you walk into this room and I can tell you're Native American. You live, you talk, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to like you walk in this room, you're just a dude, and then all of a sudden when a native issue comes up, you got, wait, hold on.
Right.
I'm 3/4 Cherokee, so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
it is. I mean, I think I find everything with the Native community fascinating for lots of reasons, but that alone, right? Because it's the only ethnicity that has a blood quantum associated with it. And there's all these rules, right? And you and I, I'm sure both know a lot of people kind of across the spectrum, right? We know folks who are blonde hair and blue eye, but are on the rolls, and we know folks who grew up on the res and like.
I know, and that's the thing. I got homies that grew up on the res that got red hair, blue eyes, blonde. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they might not. When you look at them, they might not look native, but they live that shit. Right. You know what I'm saying? I know people who are as dark as me, hair nappy as me, as mine, and they're native, and they actively live in native culture. All their friends are native. People they interact with are native. Mm-hmm. They speak their languages. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are any harm done to the native community, it affects them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If any harm done to the native community doesn't affect you, then it's hard to say you're living native.
Right. Well, I think this is probably...
And the same with black people.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I grew up in Texas and for most of my childhood, and we lived in Minnesota for a few years. Very different culture, going up the other end of
I just
I-35.
came from Minnesota.
Did you really?
I went to go see Beyonce.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Minnesota, home of Prince, which is
Yeah.
a, legitimately a rich musical history in that state, which I did not appreciate till I.
Rhyme Sayers from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I moved up there from Texas, I had a weird experience. Aside from being, it was probably the most othered I'd ever felt.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my like very Scandinavian classmates assumed that I was from Texas and I had dark hair, so that I was like part Mexican. And my neighbor 2 doors down, his family was Mexican. I'm not. Yeah. And so my friends at school, like it was my first time to be to feel, not that I was, but to feel like a minority, even though I was white, but I wasn't like as white as they. It was just a different culture. And so a lot of my friends I hung out with were Latino or Black, and there weren't that many in our school. I think for several years we had a Black student, right?
Yeah.
Maybe two, a couple of Native students, a few Hispanics. And then they were like, oh, but you're from Texas. And so that's like the same.
Yeah, you probably, yeah.
And I was like, well, that's cool because like, Jesus is like my neighbor and we're friends and we play ball and stuff anyway. And then as I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is different. And then I had like a weird sense of allegiances. And so I didn't, gangbang, but I had friends that did. Our school had real strict policies. We were attached to like the police station. We had Bloods and GDs, and it was a whole, thing. Early '90s, and as those lines got drawn, right, it was a very different world.
Yeah,
it was interesting to see that translate into how white community treated anyone who was even like a little bit different, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of what we're talking about here is not those stark lines that people might assume, but even how we treat some of the more nuanced or uncertainty among not just identity, but lived experiences, right? And anyway, I'm not trying to make more of this story than it was, but it was just a fascinating kind of learning experience. And I think this is why like everybody should travel and move around, because you need to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
On some level, because it just gives you a little bit of insight into what your neighbors probably feel all the time.
No doubt, yeah.
So this is a good segue to talk about LiveFree. So and to kind of the lead up here, I'm assuming our listeners might know you, as we said, from music or from being involved with Justice for Julius or Black Lives Matter or, whatever it is around town where you, when it's appropriate and affects you, will use your voice for good, right? To say, hey, like, listen, we need to show up here about this thing. This is important. And this is a big week for you because you are launching a local affiliate of a national organization called LiveFree. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and how it's come about here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, so LiveFree, they do a lot of different things, but CVI work is one of those things, community violence intervention. After the Julius Jones, and I hate to say after because we still, dealing with it, but after, bro didn't get killed, then we went out to, a few of us went out to Oakland with Pastor Michael McBride, and he's the head of LiveFree USA. Mm-hmm. And while we were out there, we kind of saw some of the work that, LiveFree does, and we're just like, man, this is dope. Like, this is really what we could be doing in Oklahoma City. Not only that, like, we kind of been doing it, but we didn't know, like, it could be organized in this way. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know that, it could be something that we could, like, get training for, and people could, like, actually work and get these resources to the community. And so whenever we expressed interest, then, we started going to trainings, went to a training in Chicago, went to a training in New York. We had a peace summit here to kind of, take the temperature in the room, see if this is something people would want to get behind, and kind of show like. And we brought a lot of those people that we met at these different cities in, and we were just like, this needs to happen, and so we just the past 2 years we just been really trying to build relationships, kind of build these bridges, and connect with different partners here, and then just kind of stand it up,
Yeah.
and so this weekend we're about to do that.
Yeah. So as I understand it, please correct me here, but the real kind of thrust or mission of LiveFree OKC is around gun violence, right? And this is something that's touched your family directly.
Yeah. So LiveFree OKC are we plan to eventually do more, but right now our focus is on gun violence, and our pilot is going to be focusing on gun violence in Ward 7, Northeast Oklahoma City. And so, the first time I remember somebody in my family getting shot, I had a cousin who got shot in the head. His name was Tony. He got shot in the head, and I was probably like, I don't know, 8th grade, so like 12, 13 maybe. And then my brother got killed when I was like 18. He got shot in the head in front of our house. And then as I got older, it's like people just was getting, shot left and right. I had I called him uncle, but he was like a cousin of mine. I called him uncle, but he was old enough to, he was my second cousin, my dad's cousin. But so he would have been my second cousin, but I called him uncle because he was like an uncle. He got shot and killed on the east side. Had other friends get killed on the east, like just so many. I had a cousin he got killed on 23rd on MLK Day. I could just go on and on and on and on about homies that have been killed and family members who have been shot and killed. And so with this, it's like I think about all those things, and I think about just the conflict and the lead up, and I think about how much retaliation played a part in some of it, and it's like what can I do to intervene before the situations get that bad,
right? Right.
And how can I use my voice to intervene, and how can I use my connection to these resources to help some of these people who are in these situations, who wouldn't be in these situations if they had A, B, and C, or if they had diapers for their baby, if they had furniture in their house, if they had food in the fridge, if they had a job, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? If they can get from out from under, if they can help get their bills paid. If, you know what I'm saying, all these, like, there's so many, things that, because the idea is that, or I not an idea, I know that a lot of the violence we see, at least in my community, stem from other things than just conflict in the streets. And, people oftentimes just need their needs met. And if those needs are met, then that can help deter them from being involved in situations where violence could play a part. Yeah. And so that's what we want to do with LiveFree OKC is get to people who are in those situations and help provide those resources, provide that wraparound service so that they don't feel the need, and they aren't they're because all these things are being taken care of, and they're living a not life like we would call normal, then all these other things aren't even a factor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and for everybody that I know who has shot somebody, everybody that I know has been shot, everybody I know that carries a gun and is involved in violence like that or activity like that, for the most part, I can't say all, but for the most part, these are people who don't want to be involved in violence. They don't want to have to pull a gun out. They don't want to kill people. They don't want to shoot people. They don't want to be shot. They don't want to be shot at. You know what I'm saying? So if we're dealing with people who are like that, but the potential is there because there are needs that need to be met, then let's just meet those needs so we can deal with the other problems that are causing these situations to occur.
Right. Yeah. So the LiveFree kind of uses, I think, what they call a logic model, right, to help identify individuals who might be at high risk for engaging in or being a victim of gun violence, and then trying to come in and say, hey, like, let's help provide these wraparound services.
Exactly.
Do you know how many cities or states it's there's other LiveFree kind of branches?
I know there's and some of the LiveFree affiliates they aren't called LiveFree. They're called other things too. But I know Chicago, New York, I believe Dallas, St. Louis. There's a couple in Florida, Miami, Orlando, Oakland. They're all over.
Yeah.
All over. And a lot of these places, they've seen a real reduction in violent crime. They've seen a real reduction in gun violence. I know in like 2 years, Oakland saw a reduction of 40 to 50%.
Wow.
Like crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All because all because they were helping people and providing people with the things they need. You know what I'm saying? It might even be something happened to somebody and this person is about to turn the city up. You know what I'm saying? We get that person and we just put them on timeout and say, hey, we want to, but if to make sure nothing happens, we gonna put you here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, Dallas or Houston, one of the other LiveFree cities. You know what I'm saying, for a month or two, while you calm down, you get help over there, your people are taken care of here, and you come back, you good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or somebody coming home from the pen, we know before they get out that's the person that, you know what I'm saying, is going to be, when they get to hit the streets, it's going to be hot. We meet them when they get out, like, look, what do you need? How can we help you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many different ways and different models that how this works, and it's hard to especially for a city like Oklahoma City where the answer is we just need more police. You know what I'm saying? Always.
Right.
It's hard to explain and break it down so that people see that these are just people who need our help and who need a little extra. You know what I'm saying? And if they have those things, everything is all right. If they have these things, the city is way more peaceful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to bring. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. That's super exciting, and it's the data nerd in me and the community health worker and therapist in me is fascinated and compelled in lots of ways. I don't know if you know, I used to run an HIV clinic here in Oklahoma City.
That's why I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I did it for 10 years or so. And one of you mentioned folks being discharged, being let out of the pen, and folks leaving DOC custody was such a gap. I mean, just a chasm, because they would get, even for healthcare, right? So we would see people get healthcare. Maybe not great healthcare, but they would get their meds every day, at least usually, while they're in prison, and then they get out. And as we begin to learn, like, that process of what happens with somebody,
it's a rigmarole trying to figure out, where do I go, what do I do, who do I talk?
Oh, it's nuts.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but that's the thing, like, none of this is set up for those people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it's none of it's built like the best way I can describe it is like college, right? Like when I went to college, I knew immediately this wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? Even though, you know, you gotta go to college, you gotta do this. But once I got there, I realized, oh, this is not just about going to school. It's like a whole culture that you gotta fit into. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be able to assimilate in a way to where you can, you know, navigate through all these things that, you know, have to do with college. It's not just about going to class. College is a culture, right? And so the same is almost true with that. Somebody getting out and you realize, okay, it's not just about going and getting your meds. It's not just about going and getting your ID. It's about going to this place. They give you a big old sheet of paper. You can take that to this place. And then they say, no, you got to go back because they didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like, you know what I'm saying? And then whenever you're doing that, on top of, you still got fines from, you know, all this other stuff.
Got to connect with your parole or probation officer, all this stuff.
And it's like, why didn't you do this? Well, I did do this, but I went over here and they said, and I'm saying, like, it's not set up in a way to where if you don't have help, you can navigate it. You know what I'm saying? It's not set up in a way to where you feel like it's built so that you can actually succeed and thrive. It's set up in a way to where it breaks you down, and you feel like, man, F it. When I went to, for instance, one reason why I don't like school is because I remember I had I was like, go back to school. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, re-enroll. And so I'm going to apply and do the college thing after, like, I'm an adult now. You know what I'm saying? Years after. And I go, okay, now go to the admissions office. You got to fill out this and then take that to this. I said, I'm going home. I was like, as soon as I had like 3 places to go, I was like, if I can't just get it all done, I'm going home. You know
I don't want to,
I'm not finished. Like, this is not, y'all don't want me here. Then that's how I feel. It's like, if I got to do all this work just to, you know what I'm saying, do more, y'all don't want me here. You know what I mean? So it's the same, it's that same feeling. It gives you like an anxiety.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that a lot of that anxiety isn't because you just don't want to do it, or isn't because you can't do it. It's because of probably some trauma, some PTSD, something that you have. Like for me, going to college and doing all the paperwork and all that stuff, it reminds me of court and it reminds me of job interviews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The most anxiety I've ever had in my life was, you know what I'm saying, going to court, going to jail, and trying to get a job. You know what I'm saying? And so whenever I'm doing that and you looking at somebody, you just, you know, and they're looking at you like, okay, why are you here? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I don't know why I'm here either. I'm about to bounce. I'll just go home. It's easy for me to go home and, you know what I'm saying, do this and do that. Yeah. And then I, you know, get it done that way, as opposed to like looking at you in the face, you talking like you looking like you met me before because I'm, you know, whatever. Right. And you treating me that way, then you know what I'm saying? I'm out. You know what I mean? So
that's when it came to HIV care. The 2 things we knew statistically, right, is that when men, regardless of race, get out of prison, within 48 hours, 90% of them will have sex and get high. And so we said, okay, well, we know that they're going to go where there's women and drugs or alcohol. And so how can we get not how can we stop that? Like, that's going to happen, and like with good reason. Yeah. If I've been locked up for a while, those are 2 things I would like to do as well, right? Like, I don't care who it is. But how can we like get some kind of support in that system so that somebody in their world will be like, listen, thanks, we're so glad you're out. We're gonna have you can have a good time, and tomorrow I'm also gonna make sure that you make a doctor's appointment, or we're gonna go get your meds, or just like one little thing. Because I was like, well, we can't. There are some things you can change and some things you can just lean into. And it was a fascinating kind of look into like, how can we meet people where they are without judgment and saying, listen, we care about you. We want to help you live a better life. Like, just live, period. And what do you need? Free. Yeah, live free. There you go. How can we make that happen?
Yeah, it's hard, man. You know, yeah, that's, man, you know, but I just wish that everybody understood those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, people get home from the pen and it's like, go get a job, do this. It's like, okay, how?
Right.
I've been, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no car, I got
no
a
car.
record, yeah.
Everything is online now. Like, you know what I'm saying? When I went in, it was on paper. Like, where do I start? You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like, man, as people, as humans on earth, it's our responsibility to help each other in those ways, because there's no, regardless of where you come from, you know, that pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and you know what I'm saying? There are people who ain't never had boots. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So how you gonna tell somebody who ain't never had a pair of boots pick yourself up by bootstraps? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we have to get out of that mindset to where, like, you know, if I did it, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody was telling me that yesterday. It was like, you know, because I graduated from my first classroom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking with somebody, and they saying how, you know, they went to Northwest class in like in the, I don't know, shit, way before I was there, 50s, 60s, something like that. And they was saying, you know, when I talk to these kids, I tell them, if I could do it, you could do it. And this, and I'm just looking at you going, like, man, you have no idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have no idea. And I, like, there's everything is subjective. Everything is different. What worked for me might not work for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, how I got it is not how. That's why when I talk to kids about whether it's, you know, rapping, doing music, owning a restaurant, you know, business, LiveFree, Tower, whatever I've done, art, I don't care, whatever it is. Like, I'm not doing somebody any good saying, if I did it, then you can do it. Because I still feel like I feel like I know there are people who grew up on the same, matter of fact, I could think of, you know, a bunch of people who grew up on the same street I did, same time, same era, same neighborhood, same school. One of my homeboys, we was best friends in junior high, in 6th grade, 7th grade, and he's in prison for life. He was on death row and got off of death row, now he's in prison for life. Another one, dead. So that if I could do it, you can do it, doesn't mean anything. The difference is this, is that you have to see that I can say, I look at how my situation, you know, dad not being around, being homeless, growing up in, you know, around, you know, gang banging, growing up around pimping, growing up around, you know, one parent household, all these things, homeless, all those things, they grew up around too, right? The only difference is, because I feel like the card, you know what I'm saying, like, what's the saying goes, not that I played the hands I was dealt, but I'm a product of my environment. I feel like I'm a product of my environment, meaning my environment made me the way I am. And you ask my homeboy who's in the pen for life, he'll tell you he's a product of his environment. Sure. His environment made him who he is, and that's why where he's at. We grew up the same exact way, seeing the same things, the same trauma, the same, you know, death, destruction, poverty, all that. You know what I mean? The only difference is that, you know, I had other opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got into music, I started rapping, you know what I'm saying? Like, all these different things, you know what I'm saying? And so I know that like unless he had those opportunities or he saw those things, it's the same for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would be where he is today. I would be where they are today had I not somebody, you know what I'm saying? And there's not there's not that many people to go around to be, you know what I'm saying, pulling people up and, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, where you need help, I got you. And so I can't tell somebody, well, put yourself by your bootstraps, or, you know, if I did it, you can do it, because that's not true. Because there are people who I know that were just like me, the same way, and they could do it, but it didn't happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so what I have to do is understand is if it didn't happen for them, how can I duplicate more people like me, or like the ones who helped me, or the ones who saw me, so that we can spread them out for those ones so it don't happen no more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just think that man, we have to like to start really working harder at, you know, looking out for people and helping people and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I will say that, you know, I had a mom who made sure I stayed in the house. I had a mom that made sure, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, I didn't fuck up. You know what I'm saying? My mom was a big part of it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you know, for the times that, you know, I feel like it could have been different, you know, or you know what I'm saying? And there are things where you know, I know she fell short too, and she could have did things different too, but still, some of my homies, their moms was there, they, you know what I'm saying, and they still because the streets is still there, no matter what, the streets is still there. And so if the streets are still there, we can't expect people to go, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do this, do that, do this. It's not, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. You know, that makes me think, when I talk to people about the role of advocacy in their life, and this is a bit of a shift, but when I talk about like what happens at the state capitol with bills and legislation and legislators, and people are like, you know, I don't have time for that, or, you know, they don't care what I say. And what I often tell people is, your voice matters, and if you don't speak up, somebody else is, and they might disagree with you, right? And so, that made me, what you were saying made me think that it's kind of the same thing, that like, if you do nothing, the world is going to keep going, and if you don't make an effort to intervene to make things better, I don't think we can trust that the world is going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's exactly right.
Life is hard. You know, there are forces out there that are working on us, on our lives, on our political system, on the streets, that might not align with our values. And if we don't show up, then we just cede that ground to those other forces. And I can't in good conscience do that, right? Like, my neighbors, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, like, need us to show up if we can, right? Because not everybody can right now. I get that.
Yeah.
But like, if you have the ability to show up for your neighbor, you got to do it.
There's a line I have in a song where it's like, you should always have a job if your body's able. And I think the same is true. Like, if my body is able and I'm able to help and do things, I need to show up and do them. You know what I mean? Like, because there are people whose bodies aren't able.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are people who can't. You know what I mean? So, man, I think that I hate to say, because I think our culture, American culture, we are a culture of me. Oh, did I mention me? You know what I'm saying? And because of that, like, it's easy for us to, like, for instance, it's easy for me to be like, oh, 2 restaurants, nonprofit, music, I get to go on tour. I did all that. You know what I'm saying? And if you ain't got it, so what? You know what I mean? Because I got mine. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? And when in actuality, I feel, as people, as humans, as, you know, people who are civilized, it is very, very important that, if for lack of a better word, if I'm civilized, it's my duty to civilize somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If I have some knowledge, or if I have something, it's my duty to share it.
Mm-hmm.
So that because I can't, what I'm saying, like, I'm gonna be gone one day. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be here for 100 years more. So whenever I'm gone, somebody should be able to say, man, if it weren't for Jabee, I wouldn't have A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I met Jabee and that changed my life. Man, if it wasn't for Jabee doing A, B, and C, I wouldn't be here. But if when I go, all they can say is, well, man, Jabee, he sure could rap. Man, Jabee, he sure could dress cool. Man, Jabee, he sure, you know what I'm saying? Like, then it's like, I didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because if people can say those other things, then whenever they go, people will say the same thing about them.
Right.
And it spreads. We take care of each other. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, everyone's legacy is almost never about what they did for themselves. It's what they did for other people, right? Even.
I'm saying, I know people when they gone in obituary say, man, he was a good domino player. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For real. You know what I mean? Like, that's for real. Like, people live their lives like that.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, it's like, I just think that it's so important that, we have a legit legacy and a foundation that is rooted in what we have contributed in our time.
Yeah.
That we haven't squandered however many years we were here. Because this is not a practice life. We don't get to, this ain't the practice,
right.
See what happens, then we come back and do it again. This is it. And so, and I say that because I got homies, I've been to funerals where it's like, man, so-and-so, he loved going bowling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, damn, you know what I'm saying? You lived 40 years and all you did was bowl, and you know what I'm saying? You didn't teach nobody to bowl. You didn't have a bowling league. You didn't, you know what I'm saying? You don't have somebody who can say, man, if it weren't for him, I learned how to bowl. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that we have to be doing as people to continue to make sure that not only our legacy, but also that other people's legacies as well.
Right. Well, it's not just about like headlines. I hate to say to my friends, right? It's not about headlines. It's about heart lines. Like it's fine. Like, it's, if you happen to make headlines, good for you. Maybe that inspires somebody, but are you making that personal connection with people in your life?
No doubt.
That can make an impact on them and inspire them, change them, help them in some way. That is a big deal to me.
Because I can name off everybody who has inspired me and changed me. You know what I'm saying? And some of them, people would consider, great people. Some people are like, why in the hell? Some people who have helped change me and inspire me are some of my homies who are locked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or who are dead. You know what I mean? But they did something while they was here. You know what I mean? So I just feel like we have to take more responsibility for each other. And I think, like you were saying with the homies who come out of the pen with AIDS and and trying to figure out how to help them get their life on track. You know what I'm saying? Like, all that stuff matters. And we can't walk around and live like, well, I'm fine, so that's all that matters.
Right.
Everything, all that shit matters.
Marcus Aurelius, famous, he was leader of the Roman Empire, right? So, big dude. He, in his book Meditations, the first chapter or 3 is entirely just a list of everyone in his life for whom he is grateful and why. Like, he just sat down and it's the way it starts, and it's not a very long book, right? And I've read it a couple of times, and it strikes me every time that, it is big stuff. Like, it's his parents and his siblings and like mentors and those things, but then also like a bunch of folks that I don't even know who they are, but it's like these people inspired him to be better in some way.
That's hard.
And it's like, okay,
hard.
If you're the leader of the Roman Empire back when it was something, like, and that's how you start, maybe you're on the right, different perspective.
I need to put that in my next liner notes, yo.
It is
my next album.
There you go.
Like that. That's dope.
Before we wrap up here,
did I take you off? I'm sorry if I.
No, this has been great, man. I want to say, in the same vein here, LiveFree is not just you. Like, you're the executive director, but you've got a good team around you. Who else is kind of in that inner circle there?
So we got myself. We got Jess Eddie, who is, kind of been like just the behind the scenes, like really, man, dude is like he was doing all this stuff for LiveFree while going to law school and doing all this crazy stuff.
I want to interrupt you real quick because I appreciate Jess for all kinds of reasons, two of which I'll mention now. One is that whenever he and I are in a meeting or on a call together, we both like know each other, and we can both freely say like, hey, we don't always agree on stuff, but we're both cool. Like, this is, we're doing this work. I mean, he's probably to the left of me on some things, or we just have different approaches to it, but there's a mutual respect of like, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And then secondly, anytime, I mean, I'm constantly like wrestling with the idea of going to law school, and all the attorneys I know say, don't do it. And I was like, well, I can't afford to quit work to go to school.
Yeah.
And I don't know anyone who's like gone to law school part-time to make it work. And everybody says, Jess Eddie. Like, he's the only person I know that is like toughed it out for several years to get through it. And my hat's off to him for doing that, because it is not easy to get through.
And that's the thing, man. Like, the best way I can describe Jess is like, I was talking to somebody and they were like, Jess, he's kind of, and one thing about him is he lets me play the good guy while he plays the bad guy. But they were like, man, like, I see some glimpses of brilliance. Like, I want to meet him. I see like things where it's like, or I hear things and it's like he's wild, But then like when I hear him talk, it's like it's brilliant. And I was like, yeah, like he, you know what I'm saying? And so that's that's one of my favorite ways of describing him. Is like whatever I always tell him this because he's always like worried about like what people are saying or like and I'm just like, man, like when somebody sits down with you for 5-10 minutes, like it don't matter, like whatever they thought is out the window because of how smart and brilliant you are. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, he's really helped me, organize LiveFree OKC in a way that I probably could never have done it had he not, been there to help me do it.
And he's on like the operations and finance side.
Operations, finance, yeah. And so then we have Janetta, and she's our life coach. Man, she's
social worker. That's always my wife's a social worker. That's always
so like she's gonna be. It's more of like a caseworker.
Yeah.
She's dope. She's from the East, and then we got my homeboy Cassius, who I've known him for a while. Like just seen him around, like in, you know what I'm saying, like in the hood or whatever. You know what I'm saying. But and then we got Brandon Banks and Javier Morales. I met Brandon in 6th grade. I met Javier in 5th grade. Javier was the first person that I knew in 5th grade. I remember his brother got killed when he was in 5th grade, and he didn't come to school for a while. And me and Javier were in the same class as Dennis Coyne, Wayne Coyne's nephew. Like we were all in the same. Like matter of fact, Dennis and Javier sat next to each other in class. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, you have two people who, get the same environment, so to speak, and they go opposite ways.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Javier, like as soon as I started to think about who I wanted on my team as far as LiveFree, Javier and Brandon were it. Brandon is one of the most respected, loved people on the East Side. He can go anywhere. Stand-up dude ever since we was kids, and he one of them kids who he was good at everything: basketball, football, whatever you give him, he would crush it.
He's a big dude too, isn't he?
Big as shit. All the girls always loved Brandon. He looked out for me because I was little in school. You know what I mean? And nobody messed with him because he can handle himself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like I said, Javier, who is, you know, kind of been through a lot and seen a lot. You know, he been behind the walls for a little bit, you know, but, you know, he's solid and he's connected in the city in ways that people can't be connected. You know what I'm saying? You can't, people like to be connected in ways where because you got money or because your parents or somebody or because you went to school. Everybody on our team is connected because of just who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and really that's the way that this program works, is that we all have to be solid in those areas because the community has to be able to trust us, has to be able to believe us, has to be able to lean on us, and have to be able to know that we are there for them.
Yeah.
And everybody on our team has always been that.
Yeah. That's great. You know, when I first started Let's Fix This back in 2016, a state legislator told me that the two things that matter in politics or in the state capitol are money and influence. And I said, I don't have any money. He said, you got influence? And I said, I don't think so. He said, you've got relationships with people.
Yeah. And
I think about that all the time, and anyone who listens to me speak knows this is a thing that I harp on, is that there's a quote from, I think it's from Plato, that says, who you are speaks so loud I cannot hear what you say. And the ability for an individual like you or Brandon or anybody else on your team, Javier, to have the authenticity of relationships to say, I get you because I have been you.
Yeah.
Is a superpower.
Yeah,
you know, that's the thing that makes the difference, because it doesn't, Joe Biden can walk down here as president of the free world, and as an old ass white guy, and has not much credibility when it comes. He might have influence, might have money, but it's not the same as someone who has walked in those footsteps to say, I know what you're going through, and I'm here with you because I want to make it better. And
that's our squad. That's our team. Just like that.
That's rad, man. Yeah,
I'm telling you, Brandon, Javier, Cassius, they can walk in places Biden couldn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean? So,
I would love that to be a documentary to see that happen.
No doubt.
So this episode is airing on Friday. So that means that on Thursday you had a press conference, and then on Friday you had a community conversation, really kickstarting kind of this launch of LiveFree. That means tomorrow, Saturday, you're having not a peace festival, but it's a
Peace Expo.
Expo there near your office over on the east side, right? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so the Peace Expo is just a chance for the community to come and meet our team, and then also it's a chance for our partners that we're working with, North Care, Red Rock, all these different groups, to be present. Help people understand, how they can, reach out, get resources, get information, educated on some of the work. And then we also, we'll have music, and we'll have games for the kids and face painting and things like that. So it's just a time for, we wanted to have something that was open to the community that, so the community could see. We'll give a tour of our new office space and just really just show, unity in a way to where you can see okay, they working with them, everybody, this is not about Jabee, it's not about anybody, this is about the community, it's about peace. And so our Peace Expo is just to help, show the community that.
Yeah, right on. We'll be there with our usual, assortment of voter registration forms and information for the same reason, right? That we're all in this together. And we know that we are stronger together when we do that.
Yes.
Jabee, man, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I had fun.
All right, listeners, thank you for being here as well. As we wrap up for this week, if you happen to listen to this on Saturday morning, come out to the east side. Jabee, what time is it on Saturday?
Saturday from 11 to about 1.
Okay, so for the three of you that listen to this first thing Saturday morning, show up. I will also put it out on our emails and socials in hopes that some of you come, get to meet Jabee and his team at LiveFree OKC and find ways to get involved. This is a tremendous opportunity to make the world better. Maybe you're not from the east side. That's okay. You can still make a difference in your world. I guarantee there are people suffering wherever you live in the state, right? Urban, rural, northwest, northeast, south, whatever, wherever you at. Your neighbors need you. And that's what we're all about. All right. Because, as we say every week, decisions are made by those who show up. Have a good week.